Dvedhavitakka Sutta, two kinds of thought, from the Majjhima Nikaya. This is an interesting sutta, for here the Buddha tells the monks about his own experience in training and how he attained awakening or enlightenment. This sutta is especially useful to all meditators, for sometimes we think it's boring to just keep watching the breath. Have you ever felt like that? The way that the Bodhisattva handled the breath, we can learn how we could make it an interesting experience. As a Bodhisattva, he too had to struggle with unwholesome thoughts and had to find ways of abandoning them. His method was, first of all, to divide those thoughts into two classes. The thoughts of sensual desire, ill will, and harming or cruelty into one side, and the thoughts of renunciation, non-ill will, and non-harming on the other. So those were the two sides. Before enlightenment, the Bodhisattva too is shown as an ordinary person, but one who was vigilant, watchful, and alert. The word is appamattassa. Energetic or ardent, that means atapi. Then resolute, pahitatta. These are words that are used in the text. So, even at this early stage, the Bodhisattva had, the first two factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. That is, right view and right intention. Right intention is Samma Sankappa. Showed him the right direction that the mind should take in order to understand right view. That is Samma Ditti. I'll read that again so that you will get it, Now, the Bodhisattva, I said right, both he had right view and right intention. So, right intention, in his case, right intention, that is Samma Sankappa, showed him the right direction that the mind should take in order to understand right view. Okay, that is Samma Ditti. Now, the first negative thought that arose in him was one of sensual desire. This is understandable, for his early life was entirely sensuous and luxurious. He was a prince, remember, with 3 palaces and so many other things. At this point of time, the Bodhisattva was wise enough to see and understand the acute suffering that would be caused to both body and mind if he let this sensuous thought to proliferate or increase, not only to himself but also to others, because he had left everything and they come off, and now if he stays there and thinks of sensual thoughts, what will happen? So he abandoned it and continued to meditate. Then the thought of ill will arose in his mind. So you can see, so we need not be ashamed of the wrong or defilements that come into our thoughts. Even the Bodhisattva had them. At this point of time, the Bodhisattva was wise enough to see and understand that he had to use a different kind of method from the earlier one. So what did he do? He used the method of labeling it. You see the thought, he started labeling it. Once he identified it, that is, whether it is a thought of anger, or whether it is a thought of pride, or whether it is, all thoughts that come under ill will. This recognition of the negative thought helped him to transform it by meditating on the distress and undesirable consequences that would result to both himself and others, and then abandon it. So you see, when a bad thought comes to our mind when we are meditating, or even otherwise, even when we are not meditating, we could label it, that is, whether to what category it belongs, and then think of the negative side, how much distress it could cause one if you hang on to it and let it go. Because the Bodhisattva had the first two factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, at this juncture he realizes that whatever one keeps thinking about will influence the mind, and all thoughts would slant and tilt towards that kind of thinking. Now if we think of a thought with pride or conceit or comparing oneself with others, all our thoughts will go towards that, right? And other thoughts will come, remembering certain thoughts that connected with that particular thing. If one frequently thinks about sensual desire, then all thoughts of renunciation would be abandoned. And if one frequently has thoughts of harming, that is cruelty, then and also ill will, all thoughts of non-harming, etc., will be abandoned. That is the way it is, right? Our mind is made in such a way. So says the Bodhisattva, I too saw the danger, degradation, and defilement in unwholesome thoughts, and the blessing and cleansing aspect in wholesome thoughts of renunciation. Now here, renunciation doesn't mean taking the robe, right? Renunciation here means letting go of not only thoughts, but other things too, even material things. Here, repeating now, here renunciation does not mean going away from home and becoming a recluse. It means giving up unwholesome thoughts. The danger he saw was that when one gets bound by negative thoughts, one carries them over into one's life and even to another rebirth, because they become habits and affects one's personality, so that these tendencies continue from life to life. You remember we were discussing yesterday how somebody could be very harmful and this and that. These are some of the things now about asavas and the latent tendencies. So these are the things that can go from life to life. When you read Jataka stories and even the Dhammapada stories, you will find these. The Kali Yakshani, the Kali devil story in the Dhammapada. So anyway, what we are now is an accumulation of all thoughts from the beginning of samsara. Now we usually say that my past life. It is not only one past life. We don't know how many past lives we have gone through, right? So instead of harboring and nurturing these bad habits, when the opportunity arises, it's important that they are seen and abandoned. You see, now the seeing is a very important word in the Dhamma. We have to see. Lots of people don't see. Even when others, show them, they will not see. So one has to see for oneself. Sometimes this act of recognition is not enough to overcome the negativity. Direct meditation on the impurities of the body, the danger, disadvantages, misery, and how they lead to affliction should be recognized. It's only then that when you see for yourself how much harm these thoughts could do to you, to oneself, then all selfish, isn't that so? So it's only when we see that it is going to harm you, yourself, that you can give it up. Degradation means the Bodhisattva saw that the negative thoughts of sensual desire, ill will, and harming pollutes and demoralizes the mind. As the mind is the forerunner of all thoughts, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma, Mano Setta, Manomaya, you know that, na? So, speech and actions, not only the thoughts, but also speech and actions. The cleansing of the mind was the first task of the Bodhisattva. Later, as the Buddha, he advises the monks, Sabba papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada sachitta pariyodapanang etang buddhana sasanang. Now that was the first ovada that was given. There are 3 verses actually together to the monks. We didn't have all these, the 311 for us and 200 and something. 200 how much?
227.
227 for the monks. The disciplinary rules. All those came later. It was only these 3 verses that he gave at first. So this means not this. What this verse means is not to do any evil, to develop the good, to purify the mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas, not only one Buddha, of all Buddhas. By reflecting again and again, the Bodhisattva built a force, against these defilements. So we also have to do these things, right, to get rid of these things. This was not a physical force, but one of wisdom. By developing the opposite kind of thought, he saw that there was less suffering and both mind and body became tranquil and calm. A deep, positive energy, Samma Virya, was built up from within to overcome the defilements. This means right effort, right? That is Samma Virya, right effort. We say that the Buddha is Samma Sambuddha. Samma Sambuddho Vijjacharana Sampanno, you know that? So, Samma Sambuddha, because he strived individually and in isolation to discover the 4 noble truths, replacing the unwholesome roots with the wholesome. Now that is the next one that he did, right? Now, if you were very carefully listening and counting, you would have come. Now, this is the 9th way of, meditation. So anyway, replacing the unwholesome roots with the wholesome. Now that was the next one. You get it in a Sabbasava Sutta also, where you have the old nail which you put a new nail and then push it down. So anyway, now with the wholesome, that is sensual desire with renunciation, ill will with loving kindness, and harming with non-cruelty, the Bodhisattva was able to steady the mind internally, right? First internally, quieten it, bring it to one-pointedness, to gather all forces together and unify the mind. So this is the way to unify the mind. He says, with excessive thinking and pondering, he could tire the body. And when the body is tired, the mind gets strained. And when the mind is strained, it hinders concentration. So he kept the mind calm and tranquil. He didn't want to tire the mind too much, because tiring the mind, you tire the body also. With his tranquil mind, the Bodhisattva attained the first jhana. Now this is the way to the jhanas, right? The formula for the first jhana is this. Perhaps you know this, but still I will tell you. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, I means the Bodhisattva, entered upon and abided in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. Now the first jhana was due to the seclusion, right? Because he was secluded. He went away from the 5 ascetics, you remember? And then he went all alone and he was secluded. So here seclusion plays a very important role in the attainment of jhana. The Bodhisattva had both mental seclusion as well as physical seclusion, for he was totally isolated under the Bodhi tree. Secluded from sensual pleasures and unwholesome states means his mind was rid of the hindrances. Can anyone tell me the hindrances?
Sloth.
Yes, sir.
Sloth. Doubt. Torpor. Restlessness.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're starting from the other end.
I'm drawing a blank. Yes, thank you. Well.
Yeah. Okay. Ananda also, I think, wanted to say something. Did you, Ananda? No? Okay.
Three.
All right. Let's go on from there. That is sensual desire. Kamachanda, sensual desire. Ill will, vyapada. It's called vyapada also with B also and V. Sloth and torpor. That is, it's called tina midda. Sloth and torpor. That is sleepiness, laziness, not wanting to do anything, that kind of thing. So, and then restlessness, uddacha kukkucha, and doubt, vichikicha, right? Now these are the 5 hindrances. Now by this time he had got rid of the 5 hindrances. So very important that when we sit down to meditate also, that we should get rid of them. If we have, these don't come all together, one by one, and they all don't come in one sitting. If you get ill will, you know that there is ill will, and then try to get rid of it. That's how it is done. So anyway, applied thought is also known as initial application or vitakka in Pali. that is, at this stage, the mind is directed to the object of meditation. Now the object, the Bodhisattva took the object of the breath. So the breath was the object of meditation. And the mind is directed towards it, that is, with the 4 kinds of effort. Now the 4 kinds of effort are to prevent unarisen evil, right? Now unarisen evil means now you don't have this evil of anger, let us say, or you don't have the defilement of lust, right, or whatever it is, and to prevent it from arising, prevent unarisen evil. Then the second is abandon whatever evil has already arisen. Say you have sloth and torpor, laziness, and you want to go and sleep or something. Then you prevent it from, no, you abandon it, you abandon that. And then the third one is to develop wholesome factors that have not yet arisen. That is, now supposing you are not a very generous person, then very rather, you are very sort of stingy, like, don't want to share what you have with others and so on. Then you become generous, you want to give whatever you can. Then the fourth one is to maintain wholesome factors that are already there. We all have, even the worst criminal has something good. So to maintain what you have already. These are the 4 factors of the virya or samma virya, right? That is called 4 kinds of effort. Then now he had done that, right? That is, he had given up all the bad things, that is the hindrances, and now with the 4 kinds of effort, all unwholesome thoughts have gone now. And with non-greed, now these are the things that he has, right? He has developed. With non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, applied thought has become wholesome. And instead of unwholesome reflections, thoughts of renunciation, benevolence, harmlessness led to the growth of wisdom, right? So now all this time, what he did not have, the kind of wisdom that he needed for Buddhahood, now is arising. The Bodhisattva was able to develop the Noble Eightfold Path at a mundane level, right? At a mundane level. When this practice was fully mature, the supramundane Noble Eightfold Path arose. First, it was the mundane. Now, even in our case, it will be the same if we are developing and then we are able to, develop the Noble Eightfold Path. The mundane Noble Eightfold Path will develop, and then we can go from there to the supramundane. That's how you get into the to the attainments. The sustained thought that came after the initial application is called vichara. Vitakka, vichara. As the word suggests, sustained application keeps the mind fixed on the object, right? This object, the breath, is examined and inspected at this stage. So you start, examining it and trying to find out what this is. These 2 states are compared to the striking of a bell and then the ringing sound that follows. There are many similes. I took the easiest one that I could to explain this. Another comparison is when we draw a circle with a compass. The pin at the center, the compass like this, it goes. So the pin at the center is like the vitakka or the initial application, right? The first one we were talking of. And vichara or sustained application is like the one that moves around, completing the circle, right? Did you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Right. So these two are indispensable for the achievement of the first jhana. That is, vitakka and vichara are very, very necessary to attain the first jhana. The third factor in the first jhana is rapture or piti. The happiness in jhana is spiritual. You remember we talked about happiness, mundane and spiritual? So, and born of seclusion from the hindrances, right? Because the hindrances are not there, there is joy that arises. This happiness suffuses the whole mind and body, and the term pinayati is used. Pinayati. It's a word in Sinhala too. Pinayati. So the fourth factor, known as pleasure or sukha, is closely associated with rapture. As this is a feeling, it creates an interest in the object. It's only a feeling, right? So it creates an interest in the object. That is, the object is the breath. Now the greater interest is created. This means that the mind is totally immersed in that one object, the breath. Now there is samadhi or concentration, right? When the first jhana is well established, the bodhisattva felt that the first two factors of initial and sustained application were rather gross and an obstacle to strengthen the other factors, for they still generate thought. Because those two factors, vitakka and vichara, generate thought. So now he thought these are too gross. So he abandoned them in order to develop the second jhana. This is the formula for the second jhana, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought. That is, those two are taken away, let go of. I entered upon and abided in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind, without applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure, born of concentration. Now the earlier one was born of seclusion, now born of concentration. The second jhana is more tranquil and peaceful than the first. As the thoughts are stilled, now there are no thoughts coming like earlier, he gains self-confidence internally and the mind is totally silenced because there is no internal vocal activity or verbalization. When the bodhisattva attains the second jhana, he gets faith in the Dhamma. Now all this time, he too, like us, was not quite sure whether he was going through the correct steps. Now he gains more confidence. Because, you see, he sees the effectiveness of the practice. Now he has more faith because he has effectiveness of the practice, and as a result gains tranquility, total tranquility. Though there was a certain amount of unification of the mind in the first jhana, by the actual inner confidence, one-pointedness becomes stronger and more stable at the second jhana. Now his mind is even more stable. This jhana is called noble silence. It is said that the rapture and happiness of this jhana is born of concentration. Unlike the first jhana, where rapture and happiness were due to seclusion, the Bodhisattva experienced real samadhi or deep concentration. Now at the second jhana, the Bodhisattva felt that any mental excitement found in rapture was too gross and cultivated an attitude of indifference towards it. He saw that sukha or happiness and one-pointedness, ekaggata, were more peaceful and sublime. So, concentrating on the breath, he abandoned the second jhana and attained the third jhana. This is the formula for the third jhana. With the fading away as well of rapture, I abided in equanimity and mindful and fully aware, still feeling pleasure with the body. I entered upon and abided in the third jhana, on account of which noble ones announce, he has a pleasant abiding who has equanimity and is mindful. That is the third jhana. Here he saw, other than the jhana factors of equanimity, mindfulness, and clear comprehension. No, other than the jhana factors, he saw these three things: equanimity, mindfulness, and clear comprehension. The jhana factors are different. These three are separate. The equanimity he developed was impartial towards all beings. Now, even when we do metta meditation, it's a little difficult sometimes when we come across the unfriendly one, isn't that so? So, now he has developed impartial equanimity towards all beings and attachment towards the pleasant as well as aversion towards the unpleasant were both gone from his mind. So now can you see the Buddha factors are developing in him. So this was the balanced frame of mind that was leading towards liberation. This was the wisdom that saw all things with a detached indifference. Fully mindful of both positive and negative states of mind, he was able to remain with the positive states, and let go of the negative. The word body here means happiness with the mental body. Right? Now, he is not interested in the physical body. That is, the factors associated with consciousness, like feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, and attention. But the mental happiness overflows to the physical, and the Bodhisattva felt bodily pleasure even after emerging from the jhana. Now, when he, let go of this jhana also, he still felt the bodily pleasure. Here, the Bodhisattva abandons the gross factor of happiness, that is, the felt pleasure and happiness born of mind contact, and enters the fourth jhana. The formula for the fourth jhana is this: with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, I entered upon and abided in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. Now, can you see now he has come to equanimity. Here, Pleasure means bodily happiness, that is, felt pleasure born of mind and body contact. Pain here means unpleasant feeling, both physical and mental. Joy is the mental pleasure, felt happiness, born of mind contact. Grief is the opposite of joy, mental, unpleasant feeling. Though this formula seems to suggest that all four feelings disappear at the attainment of the fourth jhana, the Buddha says that dukkha, the faculty of pain, ceases without remainder at the attainment of the first jhana. The faculty of grief at the second jhana. The faculty of pleasure at the third jhana. And the faculty of joy at the fourth jhana. That not that all those four are taken away at the fourth jhana. The fourth jhana has two factors, that is, neither painful nor pleasant feeling, and one-pointedness of mind, and a new element, that is, purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. This jhana has mental equanimity without pleasure or pain, and an impartial attitude without attachment and aversion. This is completely pure, like a white cloth covering the whole body. If you read this, the Sutta, you will find these similes. With the mind rid of all imperfections, the Bodhisattva now turned his mind to the reflection of his past lives and saw many eons of world expansions and contractions, which he terms was the first true knowledge gained after banishing ignorance. Next, the Bodhisattva directed his mind to the knowledge of the past lives of other beings and saw how they fared according to their karma. This was the second true knowledge. Now he directed his mind to the destruction of the taints, also called asavas. Four taints, namely taint of sense desire, kamasava, desire for eternal existence, bhavasava, wrong views, ditthasava, and ignorance, avijjasava. These are the four asavas. He directly knew suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the way leading to its cessation. It is at this point that he gets the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha directly knew birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. The Buddha has done everything that a teacher could do out of compassion for his disciples. He advises us not to delay and be regretful later, but meditate and find the path that he found and gain liberation.
Sadhu, 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 anumodami. Thank you so much, Venerable, for sharing the Dhamma with us once again. We're so blessed to have Ayya Sudinna here at Empty Cloud Monastery. And Gita says, thank you, Ayya, amazing Dhamma Sukha.
Thank you, thank you. And also, if there are any questions, please ask. If I can, I will answer.
Online, we have just sadhu, sadhu, sadhu for now, but maybe they will appear in a few moments. Oh, great.
Could you speak more on greed being the opposite of joy, or did I not hear that correct?
Can you please repeat it?
Did I hear you correctly when you said greed is the opposite of joy?
Greed is the opposite of joy.
I thought that's what I heard you say.
Did I say that?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Hmm?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think you said something else.
I think it was renunciation, isn't it?
Yeah, usually that's
Yeah.
what
It was renunciation.
Okay.
Because renunciation means letting go of things. Greed is accumulating. So I think it was the opposite of greed is renunciation. But of course, the result may be joy. Yeah.
And Joanna, I think, had a question.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of questions about how you became a nun, but I think maybe that's for another time.
This evening, monk chat, that would be a great question.
And then I did have one question. You were talking about vikara and vichara.
Can you please say it a little louder?
Yeah, you were talking about vikara and vichara.
Yeah, vitakka and vichara.
Vitakka and vichara.
Vichara, yeah.
And you said it was like a compass. Vichara.
The pin at the
Yeah.
middle and the other one going round, yeah.
Yes. You said that was part of the path of reaching jhana.
Yes.
And then after he got to
That's the first jhana, right? Okay.
Yes. So after he gets to the first jhana, he lets go of them, right? He doesn't need the
Vitakka vichara.
Yeah, he after now when he goes to the first jhana, he doesn't give it up. He's in them, right? It's at the second jhana that he gives up the vitakka and the vichara. Now vitakka and vichara are both thoughts, thoughts. So the thoughts that are in the mind, they circulate in the mind. So he thought it was a little too gross, and then he let go of them at the second jhana. Right?
So it's like at every jhana you let go of more and more and more.
Yes, but if you enter jhana, it is a case of just dropping off all those, by reflecting on them with a certain amount of wisdom. You realize that these are of no use to go forward, and then you when you realize it, and then when you want to get rid of them, you can drop them and then go on to the next step. So that is how now in Buddhism you don't find suddenly jumping from the last stair to the top of the stair, right? You go from steps to step, right? So it is like that. The jhanas are a stepping stone to stream entry.
Thank you, Ayya. And Ron online asks, could you explain the difference between harmfulness and ill will?
Harmfulness and ill will. Now, harmfulness is something like cruelty, isn't it? Harmfulness. Ill will is something that is more in the mind, and it is something that starts in the mind. But when you say harmfulness, and if it's cruelty, it is the action of harming somebody, right? And I wouldn't say one is a little less than the other, but of course it's the thought that makes the action, right? Because of the thought, because of thinking, that person is my enemy, so I must do something to eliminate that person or to harm that person, or that thought of cruelty. But the thought of cruelty is the ill will. The actual harmfulness is the action, where he puts it into action. There are 4 factors that cause the karma. First is the thought, that is that ill will. Then second is the way how to do it, the method of doing it. Then the third is finding means of, and then lastly do it. So those 4 things have to be done in order to complete the karma.
Thank you, Ayya. And Dave asks, do you feel there is a better word in the English language to describe what the result of the practice is instead of happiness?
Sukha. Sukha is happiness. So is there any better word? I think I would ask Bhante about it.
Do they mean for enlightenment, like a better word besides happiness?
I think so.
Actually, happiness is a word the Buddha used. So I wouldn't dare to one up the Buddha.
No, I think the person is asking in English whether there is any other word.
Satisfaction, contentment, unshakable serenity of mind.
Sometimes it's a little difficult, isn't it, to express in a different language.
But I think we all got the idea. It's something that we're all looking forward to.
I would say unshakable serenity. If they want something other than happiness to describe the feeling of enlightenment, unshakable serenity.
Unshakable serenity.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a nice word, isn't it?
I think I like happiness more though. Or I'll take both. And Marielle says, what a joyful way of starting the day listening to Ayya Sudinna. We agree. We're very blessed to have her here. All right. That was the last question online. Is there anything here? Yes, Jens?
I just, moving from the first jhana to the second jhana, the first jhana is born from seclusion. The second one born from concentration. It seems almost more like it happens naturally, more so than the other jhanas where there's more relinquishment and reflection, as you said. Is that the case? Or does it happen more naturally, or is there more active, I guess?
The active part is the giving up, the letting go of the first jhana. The vitakka and vichara, right? The letting go of that is the active part. And the rest of it is due to the concentration, right? Then, he completes the concentration to such an extent that he is able to give those 2 up and then get on to the next one. That's how it's done. In none of these now, even stream entry, it's not that you get it done. It happens, because there isn't a you to, in the first place, to do, right? So it is this energy that turns that way, so that we are able to say, okay, I have let go of these defilements. That is the sakkaya ditthi, vicikicca, silabbata paramasa in the first stream entry, right? So you are able to say that, but it doesn't mean that you do it. No, it happens because of your the effort that you put in. That is why the Samma Virya is very important, and it is in the now when you think of the Noble Eightfold Path, it's somewhere in the middle, so that it has to go both ways, even for speech and living. And I remember one of my supporters, or shall I say, she was from the university, came and said, you know, this Ayya, this in my studies, now she was still studying at the university, I have to boil, I think it's boiling or something like that, of certain kind of worm, like you know, this silkworm, like is it what is the answer I could give? So I said, try to find something else other than, you know, what that particular experiment, so that you can get rid of it, because otherwise you are creating karma, bad karma. So that is the kind. Now that is why you know, living, the experience of living is very, very important, but it's very difficult because you don't know where you are. Sometimes you don't know whether you are doing the correct thing. Now there are the fishermen, right? So that is their living. So when they come, we accept the alms that they give and give them a blessing. What else can we do?
Anything else? All right. Then I think that's all for this morning.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ayya Sudinna. Well, you can all join us this evening for monk chat and ask any questions that are lingering, perhaps from the Sutta studies and from the talks, but also anything else that you have in mind related to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, or to Ayya Sudinna, Bhante Sanatha Vihari. You get to see Bhante Sudas and myself more often, but but Bhante Sanatha Vihari and Ayya Sudinna will be here only for a couple of days, so you can ask them why they became monastics, for example. So you'll have a different story than mine and Bhante Sudas, or maybe not. You don't know. You'll see. But for that, at 7:30 p.m. New York City time, you can tune in on our YouTube channel as well as Facebook, and ask all your questions live, and we'll try our best to answer them. And then if you're around the monastery, if you live in the New Jersey area, you're welcome to stop by tomorrow at 6 p.m. We will have meditation on the lawn or under the porch if it's going to sprinkle rain. And then on Sunday, there will be different activities throughout the day. So you're welcome to come to the monastery for parts of it. But the highlight feature will be Ayya Sudinna's Dhamma talk that she doesn't know yet that she's giving on Sunday at about 1 p.m. All right. Great. Well, we can end the morning with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well and happy, and may all good things come to you.